So, Dan, I'm going to ask you the question we asked our audience, and we had full phones on it. Will the Bears be playing on Super Wildcard Weekend next year?
I mean, maybe, but that's not where I would put my money, right? That's not where I would align my chips. Anyone could be playing on Super Wildcard Weekend next weekend, but I think this speaks more to this weird happening in Chicago where there's this identification of the word quote unquote close that is always detached from NFL reality, right? And so, we could take this conversation in a number of different directions, but I would start here. If you were talking about 2022 stars, right? And I'm talking NFL stars, league standard stars, not Chicago stars. Who are you identifying as the Bears stars in 2022?
Right. Well, the stars it'd be Roquan Smith.
Okay.
Robert Quinn.
Maybe.
I mean, I expect him. I don't expect him to have like Richard Dent numbers next year, but I expect him to get to the quarterback again and stay healthy. That's the hope, right?
They should be pretty solid in the front seven. I know that they're going to have to replace Trevade. I feel the front seven will be solid. They need another starting level corner. We hope Justin takes the next step. David Montgomery's a very good player. I don't think he's Derrick Henry.
You need a wide receiver?
You need at least 3 wide receivers to go with Darnell Mooney.
At least 3 wide receivers. Again, just start with the question I asked you. Stars. Who are the stars?
Stars are Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, Roquan Smith, for sure.
I named 2, and I don't know about Khalil Mack anymore. How healthy will he be next year?
Yeah, exactly. So you start there. Like, I go back, guys, to 2018, and there's this notion out there that if Cody Parkey's kick had hit the upright at a different angle and gone in, that the Bears would have won the Super Bowl. The Bears were 4 victories short of winning the Super Bowl in 2018. If they had won that game, they were going to go to LA. And if you remember that while they had beaten the Rams just a few weeks before, the Rams had absolutely taken Mitch Trubisky apart in that game. I think Mitch had a rating of 33 and threw 3 picks in that game. So the idea that they were just going to suddenly not only beat the Eagles, but then run through the Rams, run through the Saints, and
then the Patriots.
The Patriots, right, who held the best offense in the NFC to 3 points in the Super Bowl. And it's just like, the Bears were so close. They almost won the Super Bowl in 2018. No, they didn't. They were 4 victories short of the Super Bowl. And so it's this thing in Chicago where everyone is so starved for success that they see things that weren't there, right? It was a fun year. It was a division championship year. It was the best year that the city has experienced in a decade. But don't misidentify that as close, because the last 3 years have told you that they weren't that close, right? That they were, just a couple missed moves away from sliding down the hole where you have to reboot the entire thing, which, by the way, they're doing again, rebooting the whole thing. So we have to just stop falling for this hook in the water where you bite it and you go, they're close, and then all of a sudden you're not close, and you're going through the same
What
thing.
did you say Mitchell Trubisky's passer rating or quarterback rating was in that game?
33, I said, I think.
89.6.
Against the Rams?
No. I was talking about the Eagles
Rams.
game.
I'm talking about the Rams
game.
They were going to play the Rams. Wade Phillips was going to take him completely apart, right? Like, he'd thrown 3 picks against that team in December, and he was going to go on the road. And, by the way, the next couple of years when the Bears played the Rams again, you saw what those defenses did to that feeble offense. And so anyway, again, it goes back to this notion of stop trying to trick yourself into thinking they're close when the standards of the organization in every department and every position on the roster have to be raised to a level that they haven't been raised to in a long time. And everyone forgets that. And most importantly, the people at the top of the food chain at Hallis Hall forgets that.
16 of 30 for 110, average completion 3.7, 1 TD, 3 picks, and a rating of 33.3. Dan's right on the money.
Are you going to let me ask Wiederer a question, or are you going to read the internet?
It's all yours.
Okay, thanks. What was the biggest red flag at the press conference from George McCaskey? Not owner George. What was the biggest red flag in that 60 minutes with George?
Are you ready? You ready to keep me on until 10 o'clock so I can run through all the red flags?
I asked you for one red flag, and there's a lot of them. That's why I want you to pick the one.
Yeah. So I'll tell you. I'm going to give you 1 and 1A, okay? Because they're 2 different things here. And I heard from 3 people unsolicited this week with really close connections to the building who were incredibly agitated and bothered by that entire press conference on Monday. And the one red flag that came up consistently was that in the very opening statement, George had to tell you that Ted had to persuade him to step away from the football operation and had to convince him to take on his responsibilities of hiring the general manager, overseeing the general manager going forward. And it was like, why does George need to be persuaded? Why can't he ever see these things with his own eyes and his own judgment to understand this isn't working, right? Like, we need to do something different. I asked the question in the press conference to George on why he's so resistant to the idea of changing the structure up there to the quote unquote football czar, as he calls it, and the football person that could help provide a more informed lens to decisions they need to make. And he didn't really answer it with any specifics. He just said, we believe this is the structure that works for us. Okay. You believe that? Why? Because none of your results have shown that it's the structure that works for you. And now here you go. You have an opportunity to reboot. You make good decisions firing the coach and the general manager, and you decide that you're going to shift Ted away from the football responsibilities, and yet you don't make the one move that might be able to fully bolster your operation going forward. So that's one. Save your thoughts on that, because 1A, I want to hear on this as well, is the lack of preparation that George had for the question about Olin. Because obviously you guys know that was a fire that was building for 5-6 days leading up to that press conference. And George seemed like he never saw that question coming. He stumbled through his answer. He stepped in another pile of you-know-what. And all of a sudden it was like, well, how in the world can you not be prepared with a more eloquent, graceful answer to dodge that question at the very least, so that you don't get yourself in hot water, not only with one of the most popular players in franchise history, but with a guy who has such, esteemed credibility across the fan base, across alumni, et cetera. Listen, George said in that answer that there's more to that story with Olin, and I've been told by multiple people in the know that there is more to that story, and that there was some HR logistics that required some things to happen for him to get an offer there. But listen, they stumbled through that answer, and they were unprepared for the question, and that's a problem, right?
Yeah.